Hello and welcome to Citizens Forum. This is being filmed on Wednesday, October the 22nd in the Memorial Arena in Victoria. I won't call it the Save on Foods Arena. I think it's a disgraceful situation that we've allowed Save on Foods to really steal that name. The first part of the Citizens Forum is always the Walter and Jack show, but Walter's out of town, so it's the John and Jack show. Today is Wednesday, October the 22nd, the day that there seems to have been an attack on the Parliament in Canada. And I was listening to CFAX as I was coming over here, and CFAX was saying this is Canada's 9/11. And I think they said that their poll was, should Canada implement the War Measures Act?
I didn't vote in the poll, but I think that would be a bit of an overreaction in terms of how to address the situation.
You know, they had a very good guest on. The host was saying this is 9/11 and you know, this changes everything. That was something I heard on the radio today. And that's like the question, do we want to change everything because of what may have been an act by somebody obviously with some pretty serious problems, or is it more than that? You know, from my point of view, I've watched them lie us into so many wars and misadventures over so many years that I want to know what's going on, and I want to know what happened and exactly what happened before we allow the people who run this country to make even more changes in directions that the vast majority of us might not want to go in if we knew what was happening and if we had any control over what was happening.
I mean, I think 9/11 in the United States and the subway bombing in London, I think there was a bombing in Spain. Those were all the wake-up calls for Western democracies. So we don't need our own individual wake-up call. I mean, I was woken up many years ago by those events.
So which ones did you mention? You mentioned 9/11.
Well, 9/11 in the States. You had the subway or the
now
subway.
I'll say something about 9/11, which is that I don't believe the official story. I mean, I won't even ask you if you do, but hundreds of millions of people don't, and yet that was the beginning. I mean, who's behind these things, really? Who's behind them?
Well, the one that caught my eye was the killing of the two armed forces. I mean, certainly it was a tragedy today on Parliament Hill. A member of the armed forces lost his life. But the one that really caught my ear was the one, I think, 2 weeks ago with the killing of the running over of the two armed forces personnel in Quebec. I forget what city it was in. And that was, the individual who had committed that is now being, they looked at his, Facebook pages and whatnot. And this was an individual who had tried to go east to apparently fight. He had been restrained under the new law that Canada has that prohibits people going abroad to fight in these, for ISIS or whatever. And to the degree to which they at least stopped the guy and from doing that, I think that's a success of the law in terms of what some of the measures that we're taking. We don't need to implement the War Measures Act. I think that that sort of cautious approach that we're taking, the prudent approach that we're taking, because let's face it, we're going to begin. It's an impediment. It's a restriction of people's rights. You have to be very, very, very careful. You have to be very prudent before you start to do that.
And on the radio, I heard, I think what they said, a neighbor saying that this young man had serious psychological problems.
Yeah,
So,
which goes back to this whole notion of radicalization, whether the radicalization is other-induced or whether now we hear this term self-radicalization. So what sort of psychological grounding or foundation does a young inevitably they're young men. Does a young man have to be vulnerable to other induced radicalization?
It bothers me that CFAX, which is the local arm of Canada's #1 media empire, is saying things like is ringing the bell of this is 9/11, and mentioning the War Measures Act, which is essentially a military.
It's it's an hysterical approach, and I hate to say it, but you've got this 24/7 kind of need to feed the news, and they will take a relatively it was an important event, I agree, but they'll take a relatively small event and begin to just blow it up.
And I think what we would both want, and what I think the vast majority of Canadians want, is to find out what's going on and do the right thing. And that's. I'd just like to read something I got off. I think it was from a website called globalresearch.ca. Globalresearch.ca. I recommend it. They're talking about ISIS, which is it was ISIS that said, supposedly somebody from ISIS said, attack Canada, right? So this is what these people say about ISIS. The true purpose of the U.S. campaign against ISIL is not to destroy terrorism. In fact, since at least 2011, the USA and other countries in the Friends of Syria group, including Canada, have financed, armed, and organized a deadly covert war of aggression using jihadi mercenaries against Syria. ISIL grew out of this explicitly terrorist operation against the people of Syria, which has so far resulted in about 200,000 deaths, millions of refugees, and the laying waste of much of Syria. In other words, the USA, Canada, and their Friends of Syria partners created this terrorist ISIL Frankenstein. In our opinion, the ISIL crisis is being used by the USA and some countries neighboring Syria as a pretext for bombing, to get regime change in Syria, and perhaps eventually other countries such as Lebanon and Iran. So it's like we have no idea of what's going on. And we'd better find out quickly, because the stakes are very, very high, and innocent people are being killed. A few here in Canada, but in other places, tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands.
So, next topic.
Next topic.
Can we do sewage? I know it's quite a big jump from an issue like that to sewage, but I think that we need to cover a variety of topics.
And to me, it's a similar thing of misinformation and strange goings on, because certainly with the issue of sewage and the Blue Bridge, but sewage treatment, it's very strange what's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a constant battle from a group that I belong to called Open Victoria, in terms of advocating on behalf of more transparency, accountability, and openness by both the City of Victoria and the CRD. So that's an ongoing battle. It's an ongoing battle to get information, to find out what decisions are being made.
And that's completely insane. I mean,
well, it's not.
They're public bodies.
Yeah, well, when we talk about the election, then it really gets more, there's a strangeness sets in that we'll talk about. But with respect to sewage, I've been on this show a number of times talking about it, and it's always, I shouldn't say always, it's often a gloomy perspective from where I'm sitting. But Jack, good news, right? Okay, finally we seem to have made some progress on the sewage front, and now what's happened is that there's an official recognition of the West Side Four, the four western municipalities that had begun to look at doing an alternative to the centralized secondary at Esquimalt on McLaughlin.
Who were the
Point.
four?
Oh, Esquimalt, Langford, Machosen, and Colwood. No, View Royal, not Metchosin, View Royal and Colwood. Is that right? Oh my goodness.
Well,
Anyways,
4 out of the 5 or 6 anyways.
The west side 4. They're looking at doing their own thing. They've been on it now for, oh boy, 6, 7 months. But now they have official recognition. It's official subcommittee. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but they're now an official subcommittee. And it looks like the same thing's going to happen. Victoria and/or Oak Bay and/or Saanich are going to be looking at a similar kind of arrangement where they formulate some sort of subcommittee, maybe 2 subcommittees.
I think we all owe the municipality of Saanich a great,
Saanich, you mean
I'm in Esquimalt, a great thank you for having stopped this project. I mean, we're talking about $1 billion
yeah.
being used to pay for something that seemed to be not only absolutely useless in terms of environmental protection, but actually detrimental to environmental protection.
Certainly a big thank you to the mayor and council of Esquimalt. But what I was encouraged by was certainly it was them, but it was also there was a supportive MLA, Green MLA in the provincial legislature. There was a number of community groups that came forth to speak out against this. There were members of the various city councils who were supportive
especially
of an alternative
Vic Durman,
approach, especially
from the
Vic
beginning.
Durman of Saanich. So, and there was that huge petition that was signed by, I don't know how many people, but a lot of people that went to the government calling for an independent review of the situation. So tremendous progress there because, as I said, we've now got 2 sub-working groups looking at alternatives to the secondary sewage treatment. And also there is going to be an independent review sometime in the near future through the CRD.
Well, I hope that review will look at the issue of maybe we don't even need to do anything except really focus on minimizing what goes down the drains in terms of chemicals, pollutants, pesticides, and all that stuff. Because, I mean, a lot of the scientists seem to say that maybe the ocean is doing a better job than we can.
Yeah, there's that group for sure. As I said, I'm taking a fairly pragmatic approach and saying that if you're going to spend $1 billion or close to it, then let's get the highest level of treatment possible. And that's why I'm encouraged by what's going on like I say, on the west side and with Victoria. And as I say, we are going to get an independent review. So that's
I didn't know that. I didn't know there was going to be an independent review, and I didn't even know about the petition that went in.
Well, the independent review, they tried to kick it off about 2 months ago, and they were going to spend $400,000. So it was a CRD staff formulated approach to what they thought would be good terms of reference. But they essentially violated every rule of having an effective independent review known to humankind, and they were going to spend $400,000 on this.
And who was going to do this?
CRD staff.
You know, the CRD staff is, I think, a big part of the problem in this city. Not only CRD staff, but senior staff probably, I would certainly say, in Victoria, given what they did on the Blue Bridge issue and other issues as well. I've got nothing against senior staff. Maybe they're great, but I think they definitely have too much control over our politicians.
They have a fair degree of influence on our politicians.
And they have an agenda that seems to have nothing to do with what's good or best for the people of the city.
The agenda that was reflected, or at least the agenda that I saw reflected in their terms of proposed draft terms of reference, the agenda was clearly to keep control of the process. For example, they wanted to hire an independent reviewer or an independent, commissioner to come in. And this independent reviewer would basically report to, work under one of the managers at the CRD. Whereas if you're going to have an independent reviewer, he or she has to report not to the sewage committee, but directly to the entire board of the Capital Regional District.
And why not to the people of the Capital Regional District?
Well, on the assumption that these are the representatives of the people, so you report directly to
I don't believe that assumption anymore. I mean, that's an important point. At the federal level, at the provincial level, and at the municipal level, I don't believe that the people we elect are any more the representatives of the people. It's like they don't care about the people. I mean, that's what I keep seeing. Maybe I'm way off base, but it
So
just
now
doesn't happen.
well, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you get your chance to replace the people that you don't see as being representative of what you want.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I'm not going to vote. I'm still not planning to vote.
Yeah, well, that's a choice. I'm really keen on getting people out to vote, and as part of my being a director of the Open Victoria Society, we're going to publish a report card on both the incumbents and some of the new people who are running for council to give voters more information. It's difficult.
When are you going to do it?
We're gonna launch it on either the 1st or 2nd of November. 2 weeks out. People are really beginning to pay attention 2 weeks out from the election. But it's really difficult to. The city of Victoria spends hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on communication, and yet, if you go online to try to find out who voted how, you have to go into the minutes of a particular. You have to know when the vote took place. You have to go into those minutes that are stored and dig out the vote.
Yeah, the city council in Victoria and probably the other places as well, they keep their votes secret.
They're not secret. They're available, but they certainly aren't easily accessible.
Yeah, why not?
Why not take 10 of that hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and have every vote clearly identified, what the vote was about, when it took place, who voted how, who introduced the motion, and
exactly.
And
it is pathetic
well,
that
it's worse
they
than
don't
pathetic.
do this.
I know. So here we are, a volunteer group, spending time to, I think, daylight the most important aspect of what goes on at City Hall, and that is how do the representatives vote? And you can go down there and find out easily information related to garbage pickup or whatever else. Try to find out who voted how on a particular vote. It takes you a long time. So think, here's the vision. The vision is, here's the voting record at City Hall. So you can go down there at any point in time. Now we're coming up to a 4-year term. So at any point in time during those 4 years, you can go and you can go to voting record and you can find out exactly when the votes took place, what they were about easily, like in 5 keystrokes, bang. And you can search it so you can find out how many motions did Councillor X introduce over a 4-year period? How many times did Councillor X vote with Councillor Y? All of these things are very, very important questions, and it's very difficult to get answers to. So we're doing our best to put together what we see as maybe the top most 20 votes that took place over the last 3 years, both City of Victoria votes and also CRD votes that took place.
So, and at that point in time, people should go to openvictoria.ca or
right.
something?
Yeah.
Openvictoria.ca.
So that'll be available after, I think it's either about the 2nd of November.
Okay, and should we allow a couple of days for inexplicable delays? Probably, that
on
always
our
seems
behalf?
to happen.
No,
Yeah.
we'll launch it as planned.
Oh,
We're
okay.
working very hard and we'll get it out there.
Okay, so November 2nd, openvictoria.ca. And ask yourself, we should all be asking ourselves, why is information like that's so important kept secret from us? Hello, why do you think? I mean, the people running the show are pathetic. That's all I can say. I want to talk about LNG for a couple of minutes, talking about pathetic. That our government would do this to us. I mean, the whole LNG thing, which they're now basically, I think, are they giving it away, is about poisoning the province. I mean, that's the real problem, is that the gas, natural gas in BC, unfortunately, is brought out by fracking. And fracking poisons the earth. We're pumping poisonous chemicals down into the earth, mixed with huge amounts of our fresh water. We're taking our water, pumping it into the earth, blowing up the rock, and releasing natural gas, which poisons everything around it and will continue to do so for decades. It's a poisoning of our province. And in the media, it's not even mentioned. The word poison and the word fracking and the word natural disaster and the word betrayal by our politicians, those things are never mentioned. It's all about, well, we're going to get a little bit of money. We're going to pay off our debt in 35 years. Like, have we got 35 years? It's totally insane.
Well, I mean, it's insane I think, for us to continue, whether it be just in the province of BC or across Canada, as being just these providers of raw resources. That's all we do. We cut things down, we dig them out, and we ship them out. And in terms of any sort of value-added processing, it seems to be unheard of in Canada. I mean, as a Canadian, I've been hearing this since I was a kid, right? That's our role, that's our lot in life. As Canadians, we're, have these abundance of natural resources, so that's all we can do is dig it up, cut it down, ship it out. I think we can do a lot more, and that's what I would like to see. Now, with respect to fracking, the thing that I'm impressed with in terms of talking to somebody recently about it, not so much impressed with, but alerted to, is the variation in how much damage fracking can do, depending on the ground that it's being done in. Where in some areas, the impact of fracking might be relatively light. In others,
I don't believe that for 1 second.
No,
but carry on.
No, but there is a variation. That's all I'm pointing out in terms of where you've done it.
I'm sure there's variation.
So when it comes to fracking, you have to ask a lot of questions. Some of the questions that you've pointed out, they're very important to ask, obviously. But you also have to dig a bit deeper and find out what sort of environment is there that we're digging into. I mean, look at Quebec. Quebec has put a moratorium on fracking.
Yes, Quebec has put a moratorium on fracking, and it's never mentioned anywhere in our media. They don't want us to know that other governments won't allow these corporations to poison the people. But here, Christy Clark can't get enough of it, and neither can the NDP.
We got time for one more?
We got 10 seconds.
We got 10 seconds. Why don't you sign off then?
Have we got 10 seconds? Thank you, John.
My pleasure.
And should I mention that you're going to be starting your own show in the not too distant future?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay.
So next week you're going to give me a section to test the format.
Right. Next week, a test format of a new program called
The CRD in Context.
The CRD in Context. And thanks for watching Citizens Forum. Welcome to segment 2 of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Wednesday, October the 22nd. I'd like to thank the volunteer crew and the Shaw staff that makes it all happen. Our guest in this segment is Alan Castles. Alan is a pharmaceutical policy researcher, try to say that, at UVic, and we're going to be talking about drug safety. And we've just been talking about a drug called Champix, and what you're telling me is kind of amazing. So just tell us the story.
The story is about in 2007, a new drug to help people quit smoking was approved in Canada. It's called Champix.
And it's a stop smoking.
It was a smoking cessation drug, as they call it. The trade name or the generic name is Varenicline. The brand name is Champix. In the U.S., it's called Chantix, Chantix. So this drug has come to the market. So it's been on the market now about 7 years, and ever since it's been on the market, the regulators, both in Canada and the U.S., have accumulated adverse event reports, which is when people take this drug and have an adverse reaction, they make a report to the regulator, and the regulator records that. And the kinds of reports that they've been getting, both in Canada and the U.S., have been severe psychiatric events, people becoming very hostile, violent, suicidal thoughts, disturbing nightmares, and just a range of psychological problems associated with this drug. So in 2009, the FDA put a black box warning on this drug. And a black box warning is the most severe warning that you'll see on any drug. So if you're concerned about the safety of your drug, you should Google black box warning and the name of your drug to see if it has one. Not every drug has a black box warning, but this one does because of these severe reactions that it can cause. Now, the reason why this is in the news now is that this black box warning has been on the drug now for 5 years, and the manufacturer, in this case Pfizer, which is the world's biggest drug company, has gone to the FDA and said, we think the black box should be removed. We don't think that the serious adverse effects that you're collecting are really an unbiased assessment of this drug. And so they had a series of hearings at the FDA last week. And this is very surprising because I've yet to see a drug company approach the regulator and say, please remove the black box from our drug. But this is what happened in this case. And it was quite fascinating. There was a hearing of 18 experts. They sat down, they looked at the evidence, they looked at some of the studies that the company had brought, and they listened to people from the Institute of Safe Medicines Practice that produced adverse event reports, compared the two, and essentially the FDA said, we are not going to be removing the black box will stay. The people who were analyzing the safety information said, not only should this black box stay, but it should be strengthened. It actually should include people who operate heavy machinery, or policemen or firemen or people in the military should not be taking this drug because it can cause aggression and violence. And there's been thousands of reports made to the FDA and Health Canada about these kinds of adverse effects.
Can you just run through them again? You ran through them at the beginning.
Yeah, so the main ones were depression, sort of anxiety, bad nightmares, kind of wild nightmares, insomnia, and then the more extreme, perhaps, but more rare, aggression, hostility, kind of violence, and as well as suicidal thoughts. And there have been cases of people who have committed suicide after taking this drug. So, this is a drug for a condition for which there are a whole range of other ways to stop smoking.
You might as well continue smoking.
Well, but don't laugh, because the one of the defenses by the manufacturer is, quitting smoking is really difficult. The psychiatric effects, having the depression and so on related to people trying to stop smoking, is related to the fact that they smoke, not related to the drug. So that's how they're trying to say it's not the drug's problem, it's the patient's problem. We've seen this happen over and over again.
So a black box warning, I think it tells the doctor who's doing the prescription to be careful.
Yeah, and a black box warning, and as well, I should say that Health Canada also came out with a recommendation just last year saying this drug should be second line. Second line meaning if you're a smoker and you go to your doctor and want some help to quit smoking, this should not be the first thing that gets prescribed. There are nicotine patches, there's nicotine replacement, there's at least one other prescription drug, safer prescription drug that can be prescribed. This drug, this sort of weapons grade smoking cessation drug, should be essentially the second or third line.
So that being the case, I'm
Yeah.
assuming that it's not being prescribed to anyone in British Columbia.
Well, Jackie, you'd be very surprised. I talked to the Ministry of Health just this week and was told that in the space of it was from 2011 to 2014, a space of about 34 months, so say maybe almost 2.5 years, there were 230,000 prescriptions written for this drug in British Columbia. And you say, well, what does that equate to in patients? Well, we calculate about 90,000 people in British Columbia, 90,000 individuals have taken this drug in the last, say, 3 or 4 years to try to quit smoking. So you say, well, is that a problem? Well, when you consider that a certain percentage of them are going to experience depression, severe anxiety, and some of these psychiatric effects, you might say, well, we should probably reconsider whether we should even be covering this drug at all. The reason why this has some political dimension to it is that the smoking cessation program was announced with great fanfare back in 2011. The Premier at the time announced that BC was going to start covering these drugs, and this was considered to be a great advance in medicine.
So who was the Premier then?
It was Christy Clark, who announced this investment in this smoking cessation program. So, as a researcher, I would say, well, that's all well and good, but to what extent are you evaluating or really monitoring the effects of this drug in the population? Are we collecting reports of people who are quitting smoking, or people who are being injured or having violent or suicidal thoughts due to the drug?
What's the percentage? Is it 1% or 0.5% or?
That's very hard to calculate. One of the analysts who looked at the adverse event data said something like 0.6% of people would experience depression. You say, well, that's not that much. 0.6 is well, if you're talking about tens of thousands of people taking the drug, we're talking about hundreds of people who might experience depression. As to these more extreme or more severe adverse effects, we don't really know. And I would say that is not the way to do drug policy. You don't bring out an expensive, very questionable and potentially dangerous drug and inflict that on the population, covered by the taxpayer, without evaluating the project or without evaluating the program and without knowing whether you're having an effect or not. Now, do you remember I was on the show a while ago talking about the firings at the Ministry of Health? So in 2012, there was some controversy about data access and improprieties at the Ministry of Health, and there was a whole-scale sort of clean-out. They fired 7 people in September 2012, some of whom have been rehired, but it really threw the whole independent drug evaluation world in BC into a cyclone, really. And one of the things that happened is that the study that was going to evaluate Champix, this smoking cessation drug, was terminated, and the guy who was developing that study was a UVic PhD student named Rod McIsaac. He committed suicide 3 months after being terminated. So there has been a body count already within the Ministry of Health because of the cancellations of these projects, and the fact that they haven't been restarted, and that no one seems to be that interested in evaluating what kind of impact this drug is having on the population. I think there's lots of concerns there.
So we've got a drug that was brought out by the largest drug company in the world, Pfizer, who probably has a history of dangerous drugs and huge fines that they've paid. Would I be right in saying something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but all of the major drug companies have paid fairly significant fines in the past, say 4 or 5 years, relating to fraudulent marketing practices, deceiving physicians around the safety of treatments. And they've also paid quite a bit in class action lawsuits. In this particular drug, Champix, in the US known as Chantix, Pfizer settled a $300 million set of lawsuits, which have affected about 2,500 people. And they essentially settled it out of court. So any of the testimony, any of the adverse effect information that would have come from those patients, we'll never know about, because when they signed the settlement, none of those patients can speak.
So our healthcare system is paying for this.
Yes.
And it's a smoking cessation drug.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be fairly dangerous for thousands of people who are taking it, because if hundreds are getting depression,
yeah,
I'm sure thousands are getting less serious side effects or more serious side effects.
Well, just to give you a sense of how of the dangers involved, the Institute for Safe Medicine Practice in the U.S., ISMP.org, does a really good job of analyzing adverse event reports. And they looked at 6 years worth of data and found that the drug which caused the most reports related to violence, aggression, suicide was this particular drug. Like thousands of reports made on that particular drug, more than 3 or 4 times more than the next drug that would have. So the drug is brought out with great fanfare here in British Columbia by our Premier Christy Clark. And then shortly after that, the people who are starting to do an investigation of the drug are summarily fired, seemingly in a very, 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 very questionable way, since they've been apologized to and rehired, and the person working on this drug specifically committed suicide. Yes. Yes, and
the media won't mention any
of
this.
Well, and furthermore, the study has never been restarted. And so if you were to go to the ministry and ask, so you've spent $6.5 million on this drug over the last 4 years, how many people quit smoking?
How many people have?
How many people ended up in the hospital with severe psychiatric effects? How many people may have attempted suicide? Those questions no one at the ministry could begin to answer.
Well, but that's like the first one is an important question. The others are equally important.
Well,
but
so
how many people have quit smoking?
Exactly. So the first question is, how effective was the treatment?
Yeah.
And when you look at the clinical trials of this drug compared to other drugs, yeah, it has some moderate effect. When I say moderate effect, you might have to treat 6 or 8 people to have one person quit smoking. So the question is, well, if it has that some level of effectiveness, what rate of adverse effects?
I mean, these are people who want to quit smoking, so you think somebody's going to quit anyways
yes,
with no
well,
drugs.
see, that's the thing, is that probably the most successful way to quit smoking is cold turkey. I mean, people do it without, and when people have been doing it for hundreds of years.
I've done it myself a dozen times
Agreed.
when I used to smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people quit smoking without having any pharmaceutical treatment.
Yeah.
So to suggest that we're doing a great public service by covering this treatment, I think is highly questionable.
Okay, so what does it mean? I mean, you know, you're saying that important safety-related research isn't being done?
Yeah, you know.
How much money does the government get from the pharmaceutical companies?
Well, see, those are questions that now you start asking about the why. So what instigated both the creation of a policy where we're paying for this drug? Oh, by the way, I should say that the drug is not even on the formulary in France. The French government looks at this drug and said that we don't believe that it's effective and safe enough for our population to use. What was ironic, of course, is that the French government announced that they were not going to pay for the treatment the same month. In fact, it might have been even the same week that Christia Clark announced that British Columbia is going to pay for the drug. So, I mean, that's just a little bit of coincidence. The point is that other governments in other places in the world have looked at the safety of these treatments and have said, no, you know, this is something that we're not going to consider to be a publicly covered benefit. So you might say, well, how much influence does the pharmaceutical industry have on the kinds of research that's happening in British Columbia? And I would have to say that the research that was halted after this spate of firings in 2012 disrupted many research projects for which conclusions some companies probably wouldn't want to see. I mean, we were, when I say we, myself and other colleagues were doing research on Alzheimer's treatments, on drugs for antipsychotics, the use of antipsychotics in children, the smoking cessation drug. I mean, there were a range of treatments that were being evaluated by, you know, through publicly funded research
and
projects.
all of that.
Which were either delayed or canceled outright.
So Alzheimer's drugs, do they work? The drugs they give to children for
severe behavioral problems and so on.
Well, I mean, it's just pathetic. What? So what do we do? Here we are with the drug companies running the province.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't quite say that. I mean, I'd like to think that people in the Ministry of Health and the government want to do the right thing. And I think that the first thing that they need to do is to determine whether these drugs are worth evaluating and keeping in the formulary, which means do we continue to pay for treatments which have obvious adverse effects, including severe black box warnings.
Yeah. We need more information. I mean, I've never heard any of this about Champix, you know, really. I mean, maybe we just don't know what's going on, but I know all about the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, CFAX Radio here in town gives 6 hours of coverage a night to sports from 6 to midnight. You know, but isn't this you know, shouldn't there be something about this?
I think this is a current health scandal that we're going to look back on and say, how could we have been so silly in allowing this to happen?
Well, do you spell silly C-O-R-R-U-P-T?
Well, I don't know about, well, yeah.
And when I say corrupt, I don't mean people are taking money under the table, although they may be, you know. but it just means they're not working for the people of the province who they're supposed to be working for. We elect them to work for us, not to work for the drug companies.
Well, you'd think that they're working to do the best possible for the citizens of the province, but when you see these kinds of things happen, you really have to question what other motives are at stake.
Yeah. Alan, thank you very much for the work you do.
Okay.
And folks, those people who were fired, I mean, the story quite possibly is that there is a bigger story here that's not been made public. And thanks for watching this issue of Citizens Forum. Welcome to the last segment of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Wednesday, October the 22nd. I'd like to thank again our great volunteer crew and the Shaw staff. Our guest in this segment is Vicky Chi of the Herbal Path, which, well, you're my Chinese doctor and that's your clinic. Mm-hmm. We're going to be talking about allergies from the point of view of Chinese medicine, which is very, very interesting, I've come to know. So, Vicky, please take it away.
I would like to focus on seasonal allergy today, because there are many different kinds of allergy, including seasonal allergy, food allergy, and or medicine drugs allergy. So I would like to focus on seasonal allergy today. Yeah. So in Chinese medicine, the fact of seasonal allergy is because the body try to do some work to push some cold energy and dampness out of the system, out of the body. That's why usually seasonal allergy happen between two seasons, like from winter to spring. Yeah, springtime, lots of people has allergy. But people will think, or people are told, oh, that's from trees, from some flowers, from grass, right? That's people are told, yeah, that's from the nature. The nature has some problem, yeah. But actually, honestly, yeah, from Chinese medicine point of view, it's not the nature problem, because the nature has been there for thousand years. So nature has no problem, okay? But that's the system got a problem. So from the whole winter, actually the body energy kind of be still. The body energy is still, yeah. So it doesn't do a lot of work. And but when the spring, when the weather hit spring, so the sun started to shining, and the air feel warmer, okay, and the body will get some sunshine, more sunshine, and feel warmer, and then the body started to realize, oh, how come so much cold energy and dampness in the system from the winter? Okay, the body absorbed into from the air, from the weather, and so the body started to try to work. So all the doors of the body open, okay, including your nose, your eyes, your ear, okay, and the whole skin, all the pores, okay, they are all the doors of the body. So all the doors try to open, and the body started to push all the cold energy and the dampness out. That's why we have runny nose, itchy nose, running eyes, itchy eyes. Okay, some people even have itchy ear, right? And also some people have itchy skin, right? And all those symptoms shows in Chinese medicine shows the body door just open totally and try to push cold energy and dampness, which the body doesn't want, doesn't like, out of the system. And that's the fact, okay, of the seasonal allergy in Chinese medicine. In what I have been practicing, the young medicine of young style of Chinese medicine. Yeah,
So someone who is maybe if there's a bit of weakness, or you had a hard winter, you didn't eat well, you didn't do any exercise, you were working hard, not getting enough sleep, all the stuff that gets stored into the body over the hard months of winter
Yeah.
wants to come out in the spring.
Especially the cold weather.
Yeah, and the
Because
cold weather also comes into the body.
The cold weather also get into the system more than other season.
And in spring, it wants to come out. And so
Yeah,
it does come out, and
yes.
that's what we call allergies because it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
But it's actually a good thing.
Yes, and that shows your immune system is working better, harder, try to push all the dampness, okay, fluids and cold energy out. Yeah, and that's why even in Western medicine, from Western medicine point of view, when I have allergy, they will test my body, examine my body, some kind of immune cells will rise up. Yeah, which means my body is trying to work more. Yeah, from my immune system.
So the way we should look at the symptoms we have, which is blowing your nose, runny eyes, all the uncomfortable problems.
Yes.
But we should actually say this is a good thing. My body is cleaning itself out.
Yes, including sneezing. Yeah, more sneezing, okay, and itchy nose. It's all good thing actually from young style of Chinese
And
medicine.
maybe what it's also saying to us is that next winter we should be more careful. We should eat better.
Yes.
Probably eat less. Don't drink as much.
Yes,
take
eat
care
warm
of ourselves.
food. Yes.
Yeah.
And
I'm
put
getting
on more clothes.
Right.
Yeah, don't exercise too much outside in winter.
Okay.
Because I wanted to focus on this too, because people here in North America, they they exercise outside in winter, okay, and they don't put enough clothes. Yeah, and all the pores open when the body is sweating, and then when it's cold and with lots of wind or raining, then all the cold energy will get into the system. Of course, in spring you will have lots of sneeze, you will have even cough. Yeah, even like a spring cold.
And some people do and some people don't. So all the stuff that's coming out of our body is actually the body cleaning itself out, but when we start to take Western medicines, they tend to close down the doors.
Yes, they by taking some drugs to make the symptom go away very quickly, which is not a very good idea, honestly. Yeah, because when you take drugs to make a symptom go away, that means you close the body door, all the window and doors, you close it. And then the symptom is not, when the symptoms are not there, means you suppress your body, you suppress your immune system, and you tell your body don't work. Yeah, stop working. Yeah, then all the cold energy and dampness, okay, will stay inside in the system and then go to everywhere of the body, including your organ, which can cause lots of deeper problem in the future. Yeah, which is not a very good idea. Yeah, to take something to stop the symptoms right away. Yeah, so yeah, that.
So how does Chinese medicine treat seasonal allergies?
Actually, we have Chinese medicine is very physics, not chemicals. Yeah, actually, it's very simple step. Yeah, we have 3 steps to help your allergy problem with Chinese medicine. So the first step is warming your body, okay, first. And then second step is open all the doors and window, okay, including nose, okay, ears, eyes, and also all the pores to make you sweat more. okay? Sweat more. And then the third step is then the body, after the body warming, getting warmer, and then the door are all open. So the body will automatically push everything, including cold energy and dampness out. And then you started to feel all the water coming out, yeah. And in very short time, all the problem, all the symptoms will go away.
And that's interesting because, I mean, when somebody has allergies, they can go on for weeks or months, and every year the same thing will happen.
Yes.
But if you treat it in this way, warm the body, open it up, and let everything, it's like you're pushing out the problem.
Yes.
And once the problem gets out, the symptoms will go away.
Yes, yes. Because if we don't let the body warm and then open and then push everything out, then we just take something, drugs, to stop the symptom. Actually, that is like just make the tip of the iceberg disappear. Okay, but under lots of problem still going on in your system. Yeah. So even if we don't take Chinese medicine, okay, that's fine. But you can eat more ginger, okay, and make a ginger tea, yeah, and eat more ginger with your diet, and that also can help you warming your system and open all the windows, all the doors, and then push the cold energy and dampness out. Yeah.
Now, in your style of Chinese medicine, ginger tea is good for just about everything.
Yes, yes.
And all you have to do is buy some ginger, preferably organic, slice it up,
Exactly.
put it in some hot water.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, or add the ginger into your soup. Yeah.
Okay.
Or make some ginger dressing. If you want to have some salad, I will strongly recommend you to do the ginger dressing, yeah, with your salad. Yeah, but I don't recommend the people to eat a big plate of salad, especially in winter, because that will make the system very cold. And then next year you have lots of cold energy, which needs to be pushed out. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something you've mentioned before, and which you've certainly told me about, is, for example, when we go to a restaurant, we're always given a glass of ice water, and we drink it and we think, yeah, that tastes really good. It never occurred to me for a second that there could be anything wrong with that.
Yes.
But of course, when you think about it, especially from the perspective of your style of Chinese medicine, you're dumping ice water into a body that functions best at a temperature of whatever it's supposed to be, like close to 100 degrees.
Yes.
So you're shutting down your digestive system.
Yes, the fact is the body will function better when the temperature inside is proper. Yeah, if the temperature inside is too low, then the body cannot function properly. Then we will have lots of problems, including high blood pressure, including diabetes, including all different kinds of pain, arthritis, or osteoporosis, or even tumor. Yeah, that all these problems is because the body system has been too cold. And that's why eat more ginger, a little bit cinnamon, okay, and lots of spice, yeah, warm herbs. That will be great for your health.
And when you say ginger and cinnamon, I mean, those are things we all know about, but we don't think they're the strongest medicines in the world. But actually in Chinese medicine, cinnamon and ginger are two of the most important warming herbs.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can just sprinkle some ginger in, cut it up small, put it into your cooking, put it into everything.
Yes.
You can buy a ginger powder if you want. Cinnamon, I mean, I don't know how people want to use cinnamon, but there it is. These are good medicines for warming us up, and
Yes.
it seems to work.
Yes.
Do you have success with clients coming in with allergies?
That's for sure. Besides that, I would like to tell people how to make a ginger tea properly. Okay, I think that's very important. So first, if your body already feel cold in general, okay, then you needed to peel the ginger peel. Don't use the ginger peel, okay, and then make the ginger tea with ginger without the peel, okay. But if your body feel fine, you don't feel too cold, okay, you feel warm, nice warm, then I would suggest you to make a ginger tea with the peel, okay, because the ginger, okay, the peel is colder, but the inside is warmer. So if your body feel nice warm, then you can keep the peel, okay? But if you already feel so cold, or even summer you feel cold, then you have to don't use the peel, only use the inside of the ginger, okay? That's, but if your body already feels so hot all the time, some people, they feel so hot because the warm energy all go to the surface, okay, instead of going into the inside the organ. So, and that's why they feel so hot. If you already feel so hot, then you have to make ginger tea with the peel, because the peel can help you cooling down your skin too. Yeah, so that's the tip to make the ginger tea, proper ginger tea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's all start drinking ginger tea.
And also, if you have sleep problem already, then don't eat any ginger. Don't drink extra ginger tea after 5 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay.
Before 5, that's fine. Yeah. But if you don't have sleep problem, even at night, you can try ginger tea.
Last question. We've only got 2 minutes left. What can people do to help get rid of allergies just in their daily life and living?
As I just said, eat more ginger and make your own ginger tea and add a little bit of cinnamon, and don't drink a cold ice water or drink, okay? And in the morning, make sure you have nice, warm, cooked breakfast.
So, I mean, when you were on before, I mentioned, you know, especially children getting a glass full of, you know, it's basically a bowl full of cold milk with some cereal in it is not the best thing. Warm oatmeal or something like that would probably be not only better, but much more healthier, at least from this style of Chinese medicine, which seems to work.
Yes, I think so too, yeah.
I think Chinese medicine works. I've used it. It's got a great philosophy. You know, I heard on the radio recently, somebody was saying, you know, it's going to be tough moving into the future with healthcare because we've got to develop all these new drugs and it's going to be expensive. But Chinese medicine uses formulas that are 2,000, 3,000 years old, and they work. You know, they knew what they were doing back then. Vicky Chi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack.
And thank you for watching Citizens Forum this week. Bye-bye.